What if I told you there was a place out there where even today people disappear without a trace? If you want to hear this week's scary story, then stay tuned. This week we are going to be talking about the silence of Cold Hollow. Cold Hollow is a place that sounds like it should be your perfect summer getaway, right? We're talking rolling hills, fresh air, and plenty of space to run around and enjoy nature. But during the winter of 1997, the people of Cold Hollow, Vermont, probably wished they could erase those snow-covered hills from memory. And all because of one woman and her secret diary. It all began on February 14th, Valentine's Day, when a young delivery man came down the lane leading to the Cold Hollow Library. He was carrying a box of books to the front desk, something he'd done many times before. The one thing he did notice, though, was that the door was locked. He knocked, but naturally nobody answered. It wasn't unusual for the librarian to take early lunch breaks, so he left the box on the mat and went back to his truck. When he returned, however, he noticed the door was still locked. That was odd. So he tried the handle and it opened easily. Inside, he found Eleanor West, the librarian, slumped over her desk. The delivery man rushed over to help, but soon realized she wasn't breathing and her eyes were blank. He quickly dialed 911 and the call soon reached Sergeant George Terwilliger. What he found upon arriving at the scene made him sick to his stomach. It looked like Eleanor had been strangled with a pair of her own knitting needles. At first glance, it didn't look like a robbery. Everything appeared to be in its place except for a couple of overturned chairs and Eleanor's lifeless body. One thing that immediately stood out to the officers was the fact that the front door was unlocked. There were no signs of a break-in or a struggle. How did the killer get inside? An investigation into Eleanor's death quickly revealed she was well-liked and had no known enemies. She kept to herself, but always enjoyed a chat with anyone who came through the door. She was also very active in the local church choir. When asked what Eleanor's personality was like, one of her close friends replied, "How can I put this nicely? Nosy. She stuck her nose into everybody's business, and if you gave her any information, she'd pass it on to someone else." Another person added, "She knew everyone, and everyone knew her. Her motto was, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all." But now, after her murder, people were beginning to regret being so open with the woman. You see, as the police began asking questions, they learned that Eleanor had recently confronted one of her regular readers about some scandalous gossip he'd shared with her. And that wasn't the only piece of gossip Eleanor had heard. Rumors swirled about a missing boy, Peter Niles, who had disappeared in 1973. The boy's parents had never given up hope of finding him, although most people believed he had simply run away. Peter's mother, Martha, even claimed that she received anonymous letters telling her he would be returned one day, signed only with the letter E. But with no evidence of foul play, the case went cold. In fact, it remained dormant until 1997, when a series of unfortunate events brought the town together and tore it apart at the same time. On top of the recent murder and whispers of a missing child, another rumor began circulating. People recalled a deadly fire that destroyed the Niles family barn nearly 25 years prior. They remembered hearing about an argument between two brothers that happened that evening, an argument that ended in tragedy. Raymond Keller, the older brother, was questioned about the incident and vehemently denied starting the blaze. He claimed he'd been in Burlington at the time. To prove it, he said he'd been alone since his girlfriend broke up with him just weeks later. Raymond left Cold Hollow and he was never seen again, or so everyone thought. As you may have guessed, Eleanor's diary contained more than just gossip about the townspeople. It held secrets that threatened to change everything. See, it turned out that the book Eleanor used to read the most was Peter Niles' favorite, Anne of Green Gables. She loved the series so much that she even attended the author's funeral in Canada. Now, while visiting the grave, she saw a familiar face, none other than Raymond Keller. Startled, she approached him and introduced herself. The two began chatting, and he mentioned that he'd recently moved back to Cold Hollow. Intrigued, she decided to ask him about the fire, and he immediately broke down. According to Raymond, he had been arguing with his brother, Peter, that night. The fight escalated, and in a fit of rage he pushed his brother. Peter fell backwards and hit his head. Raymond panicked. He tried to revive his brother, but it was too late. So instead of calling for help, he poured gasoline over his brother's body and set him on fire. Horrified by what he had done, he ran away. Then he began making plans to leave town. As he confessed to Eleanor, he intended to start a new life somewhere far away. Unfortunately, the diary also mentioned something else. It seemed that Eleanor suspected Raymond wasn't actually Raymond. She believed he was wanted for a series of crimes in another state, including a double homicide. So she began looking into it and eventually found a newspaper article that confirmed her fears. This was the reason she began confronting him at the library, believing he was hiding his face behind a pair of glasses. She must have thought turning him into the police would make her some sort of hero. But why wait until now to do it? Why not turn him in right away? Some believe that Eleanor planned to blackmail Raymond, using what she learned against him. For whatever reason, she was killed. Unfortunately, Eleanor never got the chance to explain herself. As the investigation continued, the police uncovered more evidence pointing to Raymond. They reviewed footage from a nearby store and saw a man matching his description walking toward Eleanor's home on the night of the murder. They tracked him to a cabin on the outskirts of town where he'd been staying, and when they searched it, they found his true identity, Thomas Gray. They also found a collection of books, including several from Eleanor's library. When they finally arrested him, Raymond or Thomas confessed, claiming self-defense. He admitted to killing Eleanor, but insisted she attacked him first. This version of events was backed up by DNA evidence found under Eleanor's fingernails. However, the prosecution argued that she could have scratched him during a struggle. Eventually, Raymond was convicted of second-degree murder and is serving a life sentence at the medium security prison in Barr, Vermont. Today, the town library bears Eleanor's name, and the mystery of her murder seems to be over. Or does it? That diary was never recovered. Could there be other clues hidden somewhere in Cold Hollow? Did Eleanor hide copies of her diary around town? And if so, where could they be? While it's possible these questions will never be answered, there are others that remain. Since Raymond confessed, why did he include the part about blackmail? Was he trying to protect someone? After all, he didn't seem like the type of man who would come forward and confess. Maybe he was trying to frame someone. Who knows? One thing we do know, however, is that not everyone is convinced Raymond acted alone. Even though he confessed, some think he might have been covering for someone else, perhaps even the person who sent those cryptic letters to Peter's parents. It's entirely possible that whoever killed Eleanor knew how the case against Raymond would unfold and took advantage of it. But if that's true, who was really behind it all, and what was their motive? Those are the questions that keep investigators awake at night. They suspect that the true culprit is still living among them, hiding in plain sight, waiting for everyone to forget. They won't, though, not while the ghost of Eleanor West walks among them on snowy winter nights. And there you have it, the terrifying tale of the silence of Cold Hollow. Which character was your favorite? Mine has to be the nosy neighbor who finds himself in danger because of it. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos, and I'll catch you next week.